We believe that so many kids are struggling today, and there's not enough support out there.
It's not just one place that's struggling, it's all over.
From Columbine to Parkland, Florida, to Vermont's Fairhaven Union High School, events of school violence and threats stir up conversations around mental health in schools. Those two men you just heard are part of a new movement to boost those supports in Vermont and New Hampshire. Now, both states have the 18th and 19th highest suicide rates in the country, but both are also top in the country for having the most school counselors per student. The national recommendation is for states to have one counselor for every 250 students. Vermont is first in the country with a 1-to-200 ratio. New Hampshire not far behind at the number 2 slot. Most states don't even come close, but local educators tell me there are growing challenges in kids falling through the cracks. Tonight, we look at why our suicide rates are so high and what's being done to support our next generation facing challenges like none before.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
In a dark South Burlington school auditorium,
I want to share the story with you.
Sue Klebold relives the moments.
And this is a difficult topic.
Most parents hope never to face. 13 lives extinguished. 2 teenage boys pulling the trigger. And a name forever etched into the memories of people watching across the nation. Columbine.
I hope that no one would ever have to go through what our community went through and our family went through.
Her son, Dylan Klebold, one of the 2 shooters, who then took his own life.
We tend to believe that our love is protective. If someone is really struggling, love is not enough to keep them safe.
Nearly 20 years later, Klebold tours the country to encourage proactive mental health intervention. For some, walking through the halls of learning, it's as simple as putting a thought to paper. But for many others,
sometimes I'll bottle it all up and close myself off and not talk to anyone.
Navigating the academic.
I've got some students in my class who are constantly worried about their grades.
And social pressures of school.
But then you have these people telling you that being yourself isn't okay.
Can be a juggling act.
Sometimes you just don't know.
Tiffany Casano has been principal at Windsor School for 4 years and has taught for more than 15.
Known since I was young, I've always wanted to work with kids.
She says every year the kids she loves face new battles.
Schools are seeing more and more students entering the system, having experienced adverse childhood experiences. Emotional
baggage in the form of trauma at home or in school, if left unattended, a quiet and dangerous enemy. In a 2017 survey of about 14,000 Vermont middle school students, the Department of Health says 18% seriously considered suicide. And of the nearly 35,000 middle and high school students surveyed, more than a quarter said they felt sad or hopeless every day for at least 2 weeks at a time.
There's a whole population out there of children that are not getting support.
That's where Sean Perry and James Reinstein hope to make a difference. They are co-founders of the nonprofit called We Are Hope.
We have an entire binder full.
Mental wellness binders and stress relief tools in hand, this small group of coaches,
Happiness, head held high,
is contracted with 3 small districts spanning New Hampshire and Vermont. Through these pages, students meet with coaches to learn about healthy ways to handle emotions.
We really pay attention a lot to what they value
and work through life's challenges.
And so everybody's so focused on a student's behavior, but no one stops to ask what's behind the behavior. We can really actually help support that student when we look deeper.
Kind of break down the walls of a school.
Tara Cariano is a high school counselor and member of the Vermont School Counseling Association.
It takes a village to raise a child. And
conducting research into how this multi-pronged approach to mental health could help Vermont students. Students, she says, face growing disconnects.
More electronics and not as much face-to-face communication and more reactivity it's important for students to have people to talk to. There's not enough mental health counselors. There's not enough social workers. There's just not enough support for our students.
She says although Vermont has the best student-to-counselor ratio in the country, the School Counseling Association does not have the people power to track disparities between different Vermont districts. She says finding that balance is tricky,
particularly in rural areas.
A concern echoed by Vermont Education Secretary Daniel French, his experience spanning from the Northeast Kingdom to Rutland County.
The regional variations are significant in how these resources are staffed and to what extent they're available.
Both French and Cariano say rural areas are at a disadvantage, with fewer nearby organizations and psychologists available for students referred to more outside help.
In a rural environment, that's really difficult. Sometimes the appointments are, 45 minutes away, which is really challenging for families.
She says some students boarding the route to mental wellness have the door closed on them before they have a chance to get on.
There still isn't enough support.
In Cariano's circle of counselors, she says some work with more than 400 students at a time, compared to others who see 200.
For me, is 200 students to one school counselor, it's still challenging.
Because unlike a school sporting event, the need for mental health support never takes a rain check.
There are some days where there might be a lot of students in crisis, yet you have to facilitate meetings, college and career appointments. So managing all of that on a daily basis, just alone with 200 is a lot. So think about, those states where they have a lot more.
It's really hard to get time to talk with the guidance counselors because there's so many people who are talking to the guidance counselors.
Some kids, they don't get the help they need, or they're too scared to talk to people about it.
So for some students, having that outside support come to them makes all the difference.
Students are more likely to be open to talk to somebody other than a teacher or an administrator.
It was just a no-brainer for us.
Building these bridges is what motivates Perry and Reinstein. They moved from the expensive world of the private mental health sector to start We Are Hope.
So you both dedicate hours of your time and travel miles across 2 states. Why?
We believe in the kids, and we believe that everybody, no matter their income, deserves support. I believe that it's important because we believe that we can change a culture.
We really want to be a part of the movement and to break the stigma around mental health and normalize that it's okay to say, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And for the wide spectrum of students at Windsor,
Kindergarten through 12th grade.
The extra help from We Are Hope extends to all ages.
I think it's a good thing to have.
And schools in the district.
We don't want one kid to get a certain treatment that another kid doesn't get.
How important is it to work with younger students before they may display a need for counseling?
Yeah, so important.
If we can plant these seeds at a young age and teach children how to emotionally regulate what's happening in those moments, then we can set them up for success for many years down the road.
And while these outside contracts come at a cost, schools are getting funding through Medicaid, federal grants, and private donations to give students one more avenue.
The response we're seeing from students and their interest in wanting to engage with We Are Hope, that kind of says it all.
Back in South Burlington, somber applause in a dark auditorium. A crowd of Vermonters listening to one mother's heartbreak and unimaginable regret.
To say to him over and over again in my heart that I am sorry that I did not know these things that I know today.
Sue Claybolt, hoping to turn tragedy into a powerful teaching moment that could save a child's life.
This is a conversation that affects each and every one of us, and we want to hear from you. Send us an email or Facebook message about your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs. And if you need help, it is there for you. We will have links and numbers to resources you can access right now on WCIX.com.